I know these two little girls, Peta and Sadie. They're 3.5 years old. You know those kids that are so cute you want to eat them? Well, that's how these two are. Now, there's studies that say that you can tell a lot about a child by watching how they interact in their natural environment at a very young age. So instead of telling you about Peta and Sadie, I'm going to tell you how they both interact with a big brown box. Huge. It's got a little door on the side. Now, Sadie walks up to the box very cautiously. She opens the door, she steps in, and then she stretches out her arms and tries to touch both sides, but she can't, so she's a little disappointed. She walks around the box, and then she stops at one edge and starts putting one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, almost as if she's counting. But she's 3.5, she can't count. Now, Peta marches right over to that box. She puts her hands on the outside, and she slides it all around the perimeter. She opens the door, she goes inside, she lays down on the floor, she looks up at the ceiling, she turns around, she starts knocking on the floor, and then she stops, she starts knocking again, but this time listening intently, almost as if she's trying to figure out if this is a sound she's ever heard before. Now I have a question to pose to you. Which one is smarter? If you're having trouble answering this question, I still have a harder one for you. Which one deserves a happy, fulfilling life? If you couldn't answer the first question, then you're definitely struggling with this one. So why am I asking it? Because every day, whether you think about it or not, this kind of harvesting is happening in our schools. In schools and in societies, we reward what is typically thought of as left brain intelligence. So skills such as analytics and critical thinking. We don't reward what is typically associated with right brain dominance, which is far more creative, more spatial thinking. Now, I'm bringing up this distinction because the story of Peta and Sadie is inspired by the story of myself and my sister. And I have a theory that the moment at which our paths diverged, determining whether we were successful or not, is tied to one critical ingredient that is synonymous with mentoring. Now, if you perform well in school, perform well academically, you not only get lots of opportunities, but you also get this extra thing that I'm talking about, that I'm arguing is the most important thing to helping a child succeed. It's called hope. And I want you to now think of hope as also being synonymous with mentoring, because that's exactly what it is. There are lots of sophisticated definitions for mentoring, but at its basic level, mentoring is about helping a child understand that their life has value, giving a child hope. So I got one formula for you. First formula is hope equals mentoring. Second one, high IQ equals success. That one's pretty obvious. You do well in school, you're more likely to get accolades and achieve what's considered financial and professional success. Now here's a third one. High EQ equals success. Emotional quotient. It's defined as the ability to recognize and regulate our own emotions and that of others. It's associated with self-regulation, self-awareness, and motivation or drive. And now, if you think about it, IQ doesn't control those things. You can be very smart naturally and still have no motivation. Or you could be struggling through math and sciences, but you have that drive, so you're gonna make it. And eventually you do succeed. Now here's where mentoring comes in. EQ can be developed. And the stats show that the easiest way to develop that in children is through mentoring. Now, if you are a child that naturally does well in school, then the system is designed to already nurture your inclination towards developing EQ. Think about it. You do well in school. You get a lot of positive affirmation. You're told that you're smart, and that motivates you to do better in school. And then you get opportunities, and then that opens up a whole new world to you, and that motivates you to do better, ... success. Now, let's say little Peta is also highly intelligent, but she's got that right brain intelligence. Bummer. And she also has low EQ. How's she going to develop it? How's that story look? She's struggling in school. No one's telling her she's smart. No one's telling her that she has this bright future that's just within her reach. Now, I mentioned before that the story of Peta and Sadie is very much the story of my sister and I. And I'm now going to tell you a little bit more about my sister so you can understand and visualize kind of how that story with Peta ends up developing. So my sister and I are Irish twins, exactly a year apart, same parents, same environment, same everything, up until a certain point. But different talents. My sister is a creative genius. She's also a human GPS navigator. She thinks in shapes and diagrams, whereas I always need instructions. But she didn't excel in school. And what happened to her is similar to what happens to a lot of kids that I've encountered in over 20 years of mentoring. She started to make bad choices. She lost hope. And then bad choices led to bad consequences. And then that led to worse choices. And then that led to worse consequences. Now, anyone looking at this story from the outside would have written her off as hopeless. But along came a mentor who gave her hope. And I literally witnessed her life do a complete 180. So my passion for mentoring, it didn't just start with, well, it did. It partly started with this early sense of injustice related to education. But it also continues and persists because of the example of the story of my sister. Now, what I want to leave you with today is one, hopefully you're now looking at poor performance as far too nuanced to be explained by laziness or no interest on the part of a student, no desire to learn. It's more complicated than that. Two, I hope that you have this new association between hope and mentoring. And finally, if you've never mentored before, or maybe you haven't mentored in a while, then I'm hoping that just a little bit, you're considering adding this to the long list of things that you hope to do when you leave Stanford and make a huge impact on the world. Thank you.